Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. You see Rodney West, but it says Brent West down there at the bottom.
Oh, wait a minute. I will not tolerate that. That is.
You see, there's two wrestlers with us tonight. No, actually, Rodney West is with us. And also Jack Lord, who had just had to turn off his television. He had it going. He was watching the replay of WWE Backlash, or whatever they call that show, WrestleMania Backlash. He wanted to see
the Backsplash. Whoa. And he was so upset about it, he decided to go and rewatch it again.
That's right. That's right. He was on there right now watching it again. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Tuesdays Wrestling Talk and our new series. And that new series is going to be the top 100 wrestlers. Now, this is top 100 wrestlers. That does not necessarily mean the wrestler I pick or the wrestler Rodney picks or the wrestler Jack picks.
I feel that if you make the list, that's something. It doesn't matter what particular order, just making the list.
This is true. And Jack looks like a zombie right now.
I feel like a zombie.
I mean, he just stopped there. You're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, Rodney?
No, he's fine. He's in stop action. He's doing great.
I don't know. As soon as the music intro goes off, everything blacks out on my side. So I don't know what's going on.
You may have to go off and come back on again, but we are going to talk top 100. The top 100 on my list, and everybody probably seen it on Facebook. Brad Armstrong, top 100 for me. Brad Armstrong. Jack, top 100. Who's on your top one now? Who is number 100?
I concur with Brad on that one.
All right, Rodney, top 100.
Bob Backlund,
former
WWF heavyweight champion of the world, defeated superstar Billy Graham in Madison Square Garden.
Now, is that Bob Backlund or Mr. Backlund? Which character?
We don't remember Mr. Backlund. We only remember Bob.
Now, how we're going
Mr. Backlund will not be even on the 100.
How we're going to do this each week? We're going to take one wrestler, and we're going to talk about them, and we're going to go with the list that we did back. How long was it? Was it 2019 we did that list, Jack?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's 2019. We got a lot of good feedback on that. And a lot of people got upset because we picked certain people to be on the list. But the list is actually a complete. I mean, when you look at a list, it can be Rodney had Bob Backlund on the top 100. Someone in New York may have him the top 10. It's going to be different for everyone. Let me go through a couple of people. They sent this through the email, and this is what Joe Santoro said. Wow, where to begin? I guess my list would probably begin with the Big Boss Man. He's number 100, Big Boss Man. I was always kind of scared of him when I was a kid and never could figure out why. Now I know he was so incredibly quick and agile for a man his size, so he puts Big Boss Man on his top 100, and it's 100. Jason Mundy agreed with Brad Armstrong to be in 100. David Robertson said Brad would be in my top 50, and I don't disagree with that. Randy Gulabo, I believe is how you say his name, the Masked Superstar, is 100. Tony White, number 100. Ron Garvin. Mike Paul. Killer Brooks was on his top one. And Dennis, I'm not for sure, Runovich, maybe is his name. Number 100, Mike Jackson. And we'll talk about that just for a second. Douglas Allen, all the Von Erichs. He just put them all in 100 in the top on that one. Let's talk about Mike Jackson just for a minute. Some people may say, oh, he don't deserve to be in the top 100. But Jack, he knew exactly what his role was, and that's what's important as a professional wrestler. Not as much as he drew a ton of money, but what he knew to do.
I have to agree with that. Mike was always about business, and when you consider a guy that is up into his 70s and still performing at a high level, you can't not put Mike Jackson in the top 100.
No, because he does deserve to be there. And there's so many wrestlers. We've already said there's probably more than 10,000 plus wrestlers in the world that's wrestled throughout the years. So when you look at a top 100, just to be in someone's top 100 has to be something that you'd have to be proud of. Let's talk a little bit about Brad Armstrong and why he deserves to be in the top 100. When we did this in 2019 on our Facebook page, some people said he should have been there. Some people said he shouldn't have been there. Some people said he should have been higher. So this is my thought process with Brad Armstrong. Some people said he didn't ever draw any money, but he did. Brad Armstrong did draw money, and he drew money the first year he was in the wrestling business. And Rodney, we talked about this at length at some point. When he first started, he teamed with his father, Bob Armstrong. They did an angle where he would team with his dad. They did a lot of things where they beat him up. They did the thing with Tommy Weathers where he had the key, the handcuff key, and he put it up against Bob, and they beat Brad. And we said that would not.
And the they is Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose.
Yeah, and it really got over. And I don't think that could have been done with Robert Gibson. It wouldn't drew the money that it drew with Brad Armstrong. It only worked because it was Brad Armstrong. And regardless of people say, well, that was Bob that drew the house. No, I don't think so. I think the whole situation what drew the house. Then he goes to Atlanta. And he has a great bit of success in Atlanta for Georgia Championship Wrestling, one of the youngest national tag team champions and Georgia tag team champions of all time. And he gets over there. He stays there for years because he does what he's asked to do. And what was so good about him, if he was on the first match, he had a first match, if that makes sense. If he was the third match, he had a third match. And if he's in the main event, he did what had to be done for the main event. Rodney, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. This and the thing about it is that it is amazing for me. The real test of a wrestler is can you go and lay something out, and can they do it with no effort whatsoever? And Brad was just that. He could do it with no effort whatsoever because he was just that good. If you wanted him to brawl, he can brawl. If you want him to wrestle, fine. If you want him to do some high-flying stuff, he could do that too. It was nothing that Brad could not do. In fact, we wrote about him in one of our original Pro Wrestling Inside Out newsletters. And we told WCW that they were missing a great treasure in Brad Armstrong. In fact, we got a little bit of push after that, I have to admit.
By the way, Jack's dog also believes that Brad Armstrong.
My dog is doing a cage match right now. She ain't happy about it.
And it believes that's Brad Armstrong as well. We know we knew we picked the right guy. Okay, now a lot of people have sent in there who they think needs to be a 100. I think we better get to it because we'll never get through these if we don't, because they've been a ton of them that came in. So let's see who people have put on the 100. Now remember, this is 100 of the top 100. We will keep on every week. We'll move ourselves down until we get the number one. And if you don't want to wait, you can go back and look at Facebook from 2019. Somehow you can search that. I'm not for sure how you do it, but somehow you can search it. You can look through the whole top 100 list. Good evening, gentlemen, is from Richard Hood, Chad Mojo Hitter Coleman. Hi there, guys. Michael Barr from Parts Unknown. He's with us. Freddie Chaplin. I messed his name up again. The Chaplain Freddie Rooster Roper. Okay, there we go. I've got your name again. Let's see. Hello, Jack. Bye, Jack.
For a minute.
Looking forward to hearing you guys top 100. It will take a long time to get there, but we'll always talk about that one wrestler that and the wrestlers that people pick of who they think should be in the top 100. Michael Barr said Jack was in slow motion. No, that was just Jack. He was just moving. Yeah.
It's a Tuesday.
Let's see. Jack Lord disappeared just like what? Margarita.
Just like my margarita did at the Mexican restaurant. It did. he took me out for Mexican. He said, order anything you want. So I ordered a margarita.
Rick Brooks is from Foulmouth. Well, I think he said Foulmouth, Kentucky before, hasn't he? I think it's northern Kentucky at this point. 100. Larry Bebop Hathcock says Bill Eadie, the Masked Superstar. Now, we've already had somebody else say the Masked Superstar as well for the one of the top 100. And you know what? He deserves to be in a top 100. He was one of the greatest wrestlers to ever put on a pair of tights, and there's no doubt. And he drew a lot of money in the Carolinas, drew a lot of money in Japan, drew a lot of money in Georgia. And even New York for a while. Do y'all agree, Masked Superstar?
Well, everybody that watches the show knows how I feel about Bill. And honestly, I've got him way down in the top 20. So, yeah, he definitely deserves to be there.
Yes, Masked Superstar is way later on in my list as well. Rodney?
Yes, I agree.
Mickey Mayfield.
No disagreement so far.
He has a top 5. He's went ahead and jumped.
He jumped all the way.
He already jumped to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Lord have mercy, Mickey.
He says Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Wrestling 2, Bob Armstrong. Agree with each one of those. They believe. Top 100. We'll go back to number 100. Glenn Allen Shelton said Scott Armstrong. And I could agree with that as well. Scott was just like Brad. Scott could have a match with a broom.
Mm-hmm.
He was just tremendous at what he did in the ring. And I've seen him have great matches with Bill Ash, seen him have good matches with Tom Pritchard. I mean, who has he not had a great match with?
Ted Allen.
He had a
great match with Ted
Allen.
Yeah,
he even had a good match with me. I didn't say great.
Wow.
Richard Hurd said Jerry Oates.
Jerry Oates, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
definitely Jerry Oates.
I seen on the on Facebook that Jerry and Ted Oates was together at some event as the Oates brothers were back together, Ted and Jerry Oates. So that would be a good interview to have.
Yes,
Ted and Jerry Oates.
Yeah, that would be great. We would need 2 hours for that, though.
Not necessarily, because the way we worded it, and I think this was probably one of the maybe what made people mad. We said the top 100 wrestlers of all time. And some people took, and Jack, you know this. Rodney don't know. Rodney ain't on Facebook, so he doesn't know all the. But Jack knows. He had to fill a lot of the complaints that was brought into from the Facebook page. But it was just a thought process we tried to explain. But boy, some people really got really angry because we put certain people over certain people. And some people had this, and some of those people had a problem with Brad Armstrong. They said that he should not have ever been in the top 100. They wouldn't put him in the top 100. I
think that's by criteria. Sometimes people regard instead of looking at in-ring performance, they look at gates as a measure of a person's success. When we're not looking at that.
Yeah, I'll jump ahead. Kevin Pentley just asked, are we going by putting people in seats or ability? So, I think that you as an individual, I think, when you come up with your own 100, I know that's what I look at. People may not agree with Hulk Hogan being in the top 10. Was he the greatest wrestler in the world? No, he was pretty darn good, a lot better than he gets credit, but he was one of the biggest draws in the history of the business. So if he's not in the top 10, then you don't have a real top 10 list, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that, because there are so many wrestlers that could be in good, but Jerry Oates is not in my top 100. But does he belong in someone's? Yes, because when you look at his body of work, when you look at what he did in the Carolinas and what he did in Alabama and what he did in Georgia and what he did when he went over to, I think he even worked for Bob Geigel, didn't he, for a while? I mean, look at the body work he did. He does deserve, and he was a great professional wrestler. And when I did the top 100, when I sat and did the top 100, and by the way, doing a top 100 is very hard to do. It is very hard to do because when you write them down, you'll have 300 wrestlers written down, and then you have to start getting rid of some of them. You say, well, okay, I hate to get rid of this guy, but I can't have him in that. I gotta give someone more credit, and I have to give and the reason Brad Armstrong got there because I got to give him credit because he always did what he was asked to do. Regardless if it was good for him or bad for him, he still did it. And that was and a lot of times he did stuff that maybe he should have said, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And he didn't. But maybe he should have. He said, no, I'm not putting Johnny B. Bad over. So you forget that. No, I'm not doing that. Everybody should have said I ain't gonna put Johnny B. Bad over. But some people did. And I don't think Brad Armstrong should have done it. I no doubt. He did too much for the business to have to put over somebody like Johnny B. Bad. Glenn Allen Shelton said he believes that Brad should be 80. Brad should be in the 80s. I agree. I agree. That's something, when you're thinking about it, but then when you start writing it all down, and that's what I did. I started saying, well, I've got to put this guy in front of him though. Because Tully Blanchard, there's a lot of people that had to go in front of him. It takes a long time to do it. So, Kevin Penley said, "I wouldn't put Brad at 100. He was better than that. My 1,000." But George Goulas gets a bad rep. But George was not as bad as everyone said he was.
No, he was not.
I understand they said it because. And Ronnie, we've talked about this because he was Nick Goulas' son. He was worse because of that. Don't you agree?
Yes. Exactly what that's basically the reason. If his name was anything but Goulas, he probably wouldn't have been booked. But other than that, it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as we think. He could sell like nobody's business. Yeah. In fact, some people today could take some lessons from him on selling for sure.
Yeah, he could. He could sell. Comebacks were weak. I mean, I agree. They were weak. But so was Jim Duggan's. So, his punches looked as bad as George Goulas. Why don't Jim Duggan get as bad deal? Because you know why? Because he wasn't the son of a wrestling promoter. And, there was other people's punches that were just as bad. But for some reason, they didn't get the bad rep as being that way. Paul said Tex McKenzie. I was never a fan of Tex McKenzie.
Well, you saw him in latter days.
Yes.
He was a huge draw in the Carolinas, and we know the Carolinas would not use anybody unless they were great. And so that's what you saw. You saw him in his latter days.
Jack, what do you think about Tex McKenzie?
Again, I only saw stuff when he was older. He didn't really impress me so much, but I did see one match, younger, but it was just clips, so it was hard to tell. But you could tell by the crowd response, even when he was older, he was still over.
That's right.
With the crowd. And, if people are willing to pay ticket prices, no matter if we think you're terrible, but people are paying to see you, you're pretty good.
Michael Barr has Jack Brisco at 100. He should be there, but I believe Jack Brisco should be way lower down on the.
I got Jack in my top 10.
Yeah, I think Jack is one of the. I think he's got to be lower, but now Michael Barr got to remember. Now he was the Wrestling Pro is probably going to be on his list.
Yep.
Eddie Sullivan. These are the wrestlers that wrestle for Gulf Coast Championship Wrestling. Several other guys that probably Ken Lucas probably wouldn't be on many people's list, but he will probably be on somebody in
Ron Carson,
Alabama, no doubt. the hippie, what's his name?
Mike Boyette.
He would be on someone's list there because he was such a big star in that area. But nobody would know who Eddie Sullivan, Greg Peterson. They wouldn't know who he was in New York. But he was
Bob Kelly, huge draw.
Yep.
And so you got to again, it's where you were at and what you grew up seeing. And I think that's the very important part to see. No one's list is wrong. It's just there's no wrong list.
As long as they make the list, that's my point. Just making the list.
Joel Bateman, hi everyone. Richard Hood said Jack Lord, and I would agree with that as well. Here's what I'm going to say. Jack,
what have you got in your cigar?
Jack knew what he was doing in the process of he knew he was like Brad Armstrong. He knew what he was supposed to do for the night. And we can tell you from experience, we would tell Jack, okay, at the beginning of this, we want us to go out, get the heat. And he knew what that meant. He knew exactly how to get it and the way to get it. And we want you to get heat the whole night. And at the end of the night, Terry Gordy or whoever is going to whip your tail. Yep. That was the deal. And then we bring him back the very next week. Jack get his heat back, do the same thing over and over again with Jack. He knew what he was doing. He understood his role and didn't complain about it. Oh, what are you doing? Killing me off? No, he knew exactly what is being done. So I would agree that Jack would be there. Now, do they know him up in New York? No, they probably don't know him in New York. But he knew exactly what he was doing. And that's what makes a great wrestler. Understanding that and understanding the business. Dory Funk. Michael Barr said Dory Funk. Yeah, but got to remember now, you can only have one at 100. I guess you could have 2 or 3 different lists, though, could you?
Well, he's adding to his list already.
Number 100, Ronnie Garvin. Jason Bales, number 100, Ron Garvin. I would agree with Ron Garvin in that because I don't remember, Jack, and it's been a long time. I don't remember, did Ron Garvin get in that top 100 list?
I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either. I would have to go back and have to look at it, and I don't really want to. I don't even want to remember it till I go back and look and see who was in that spot. But I don't think Ronnie Garvin made it. Roger, would Ron Garvin make it on your 100 or
yes,
your list at all?
Yes, he will. I mean, he would. I'm not saying that he's in there now, but he could have been, but he might be. He could be in there. Oh man. I've had a really awful day today, people.
Kevin Penley said, I'm starting out with Barry Windham. Would have been number 100 as Blackjack Mulligan Jr. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. Barry Windham a little higher on the list for me, but Barry Windham deserves one of the great workers. Now, the only thing that kept Barry Windham down is every time I don't think he had to work because he'd worked for a while and he'd quit for a while. He'd worked for a while and he quit for a while. I think he'd rather go fishing than be the world heavyweight champion. So, and there's some good things about that because when you're out there on that boat, you're not having to worry about nobody telling you, hey, by the way, we're going to throw something at you. You're going to duck. It's going to hit the referee. And then you're going to slip on a banana peeling, and then we're going to beat you 1, 2, 3. Nobody was telling me that over there. And that Richard, was telling them that.
Richard's going off the deep end here now.
Glenn Allen Shelton said hello. And how you doing, Glenn? Richard Hood also said Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons. He also said Gerald Finley. And you know what? He's another one. Again, if people will go, oh, what is he talking about? What is that? But it's because he knew his role. That's what makes a good wrestler. You know what makes a bad wrestler? Is people who try to take advantage of something. Greg Valentine said something on an interview that he said he did not like Scott Steiner, did not like working with Scott Steiner because Scott Steiner tried to do stuff to him that he shouldn't have been trying to do. He tried to drop him on his head once, and he should have never done that. Scott Steiner should only have done what Greg Valentine asked him to do.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have tried to do stuff that he shouldn't do. Scott Steiner would not make it in the top 100 because he never cared about nobody but Scott Steiner. You know, those people that make the top 100, they have to care about what they're doing to get other people over. It should be your job as a wrestler to get the other wrestler over. Not get yourself over as much, but to get the other wrestler over. Gerald Finley knew how to do that. He knew how to do it and had no problem with it. And that's very important. Jerry Stubbs, yes. Jerry Stubbs way down on the list. Jerry Stubbs, some of the best matches I've ever seen. Rodney, what do you think?
Yes, Jerry Stubbs, definitely on the list. But he might not be on my list, but he's probably there. But he might not be. He might be.
You know, Jack, you're not the only one with a dog. No.
But he could be there. I have a doubt. I think he's on there somewhere. I can't tell him all my whole 100 tonight.
That's true. We're only telling 100, but now we want to see who people think should be on the top 100.
I've noticed no one's matched mine.
Is that That was Mr. Atlanta, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
and the Black Scorpion, one of them.
Yeah, he did do that a couple of times.
Yes, he did.
Pat Rose.
Pat Rose, yes.
Pat.
Yeah, we got to put Pat on the list because I talked to him today, and he said if we run a show near him, he's got to be the main event. He ain't gonna take bumps, and he ain't dressing out, but he said he's got to be
all right.
Me.
Who is his age at the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah, probably.
Pat Rose. He's going to job in 3 seconds.
Just do that coming in at the number whatever Pat Rose Ric Flair. You know, I'm sure he'll be satisfied with that.
Joel Deaton, he deserves to be up there as well. But at some point, you got to look at, all right, Joel Deaton should be there, but is there other people that should be there ahead of him? That's always what the things when you're really writing down a top 100 list, very hard to do. And Mike Jackson wrestles better now at 70 than his younger days. But now, I won't be honest with you, he does all the same spots all the time, though.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know that he's better, but he's as good. Because he's right, and he'll tell you that. That's why he doesn't. He comes for 1 or 2 shows because he shows you everything he's got in 2 matches. So, nothing wrong with that. He understands. You know, he knows what he's doing.
But he does understand it, though. Now, prior to doing them same matches over and over again, he actually did understand what he was supposed to do, though. And he was very good at it. He knew make the guy look a little good, make him do your little moves. But at the end, they're going to beat you. And he didn't try to kick out at the 2 count. You know, that was the I've seen guys, And
let me give Mike a cheap plug here. He started a new promotion that he's running down Quinton, Alabama, right around Birmingham. All-Star Wrestling. He stole our gimmick here, Rodney.
What?
But yeah, All-Star Wrestling. And he's doing pretty good.
Look him up. Look him up because it'll be a good show. Mike Jackson knows what he's doing. Yep. And be the old.
Got some good talent. Really good talent.
Kurt Hennig, number 1 in his book. So he's going to say Kurt Hennig, number 1. So he's jumping way ahead. But Kurt Hennig, and I would agree with that. Chad said Earnie Ladd. I guess he's making a tie, maybe the top 100. Earnie Ladd, Junkyard Dog. I put Junkyard Dog, and I'll never forget this on the list. When Junkyard Dog hit the list, a lot of people said, no. But you was in Louisiana when the Junkyard Dog was there. And also, if you didn't go to the WWE show and watch Junkyard Dog come out, and they did nothing with him in WWF, he was over. How about not my computer talking about that?
Big time over.
Richard Hood, Bobby Eaton. Well, see, Richard, and I put him way down into to the list. I mean, he's way down in there. Again, some people didn't agree with that. but you don't have to agree with it because the lists are always different. Kevin,
well, again, it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking,
Sid Vicious.
I love Sid. I don't know. I'd put him in the top 100 though.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Sid got a pretty decent push. Could have been a huge star in wrestling business, but I think the softball teams and the softball games kept him from going any further. I don't know why he liked to play softball so much for him.
Well, it wasn't such a money thing for him too. He liked making money, of course, but I believe that his wife's family, had a few dollars, and so he was kind of sad.
It was all right. Now he would probably not even be in my top 400. I just don't know that I'd put him in my top 400 because I seen him in Birmingham, Alabama one time. Who was he wrestling against, Rodney? Was it Lex Luger?
When it was him wrestling, I don't remember much of what he
But
did.
he was yelling out spots. I mean, kick me.
Mr. Vicious, if you want to call him that, is in the same league of Mr. Steiner. But I mean that in the nicest possible way. But he's not he might be on my list, but then again,
Richard Hood said New Jack. Yeah, I like New Jack, but I don't know that he'd even be in my top 300. And it's not his fault. That was the gimmick he was given, but I never really thought of him as a top 100 wrestler. That's just my thought process. Michael Barr, Brad definitely should be in the top 100. Michael Barr said Danny Davis. A lot of people, not the Danny Davis. I don't think he's talking about the Danny Davis from the WWF, not the referee Danny Davis.
No.
Referee turned wrestler Danny Davis.
This was Danny Davis.
Or Sergeant Danny Davis.
The only 5-star sergeant in the Army.
He stole that gimmick from Jerry Lawler, though, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did. Danny was a great wrestler. Danny knew what he was doing. Danny had him and Kenny together. Tremendous. Just a tremendous Abdullah the Butcher. Richard Hood said Abdullah Butcher would be on that top one. And he should. He should be. Did he make that list before? I don't believe he did. I can't remember, but I don't believe he did make that list. Just because he never really stayed nowhere for long periods of time.
Well, he was an attraction. He was like Bruiser Brody. He was like Andre the Giant. They knew that, if you kept somebody like him there for a long time, the luster was going to wear off.
Yeah.
And he knew that. He understood that.
Richard Hood said Robert Gibson. And you know what? Unfortunately, when I did the top 100 before, Robert Gibson didn't get into the top 100. But I've honestly went back and watched his stuff, and man, he was good. And when you go back and watch the stuff before he was with Ricky Morton. Look how good he was. Tremendous, just tremendous, and even on a personal level, I may not have always agreed with Robert Gibson, but I have to agree he was a great wrestler. Do y'all agree with that?
Totally agree.
So, and I will say 101 in my list, 101, I'll give it to Robert Gibson because I can't take any of the other guys off I had on that list. But he was tremendous in it. David Mullins puts Hulk Hogan on the 100 list, or maybe he's meaning number one, but I don't know that I can give him number one spot. I don't believe I can give Hulk Hogan that, but he deserves to be there. Larry said Brad was the best wrestler of the Armstrongs, most underrated of them. Yeah, and all of the Armstrongs were good. Yep. And they'll tell you Brad was the best. Even the other Armstrongs told you that Brad was the best. Even Bob would say that he over-exceeded what he could do.
Well, I said I posted a match of Brad's the other day. I think it was Brad and Ric Flair. And I said that, to me, Brad was one of the best wrestlers that ever laced up a pair of boots. And now that is from my experience of being in the ring with Brad. He was my favorite to be in there with.
Adrian Harper, Tim Horner.
Yeah,
I agree.
Awesome.
Again, he was another one that knew what he was supposed to do in the ring. If he was the first match, he knew what he needed to do. Second match, he knew. He didn't try to go out in the first match and do all the stuff that the main event is supposed to do. He knew he was the first or second match or third match, and he knew what to do in those roles. And that's what makes a great professional wrestler, and Tim Horner was one of those. Brad Armstrong, a very good worker. He was one of the greats. Mickey Mayfield said, Mick Foley do love Mankind Cactus Jack. And for what he did, yes, I believe he deserves it because, man, he can't even walk straight today for everything that he did. So, I mean, you got to give him credit. What do y'all think? Man, does he deserve to be in the top 100?
He's in there with mine. I can't remember where, but I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah. Rodney?
He might or may not be in my list. I'm going to say probably not, but he could be.
For those wondering, Rodney is contemplating a political career.
Mark Edwards said Moondog spot, Larry Lathan. Or you could also say the Blonde Bomber.
I think the Blonde Bombers, without a shadow of a doubt, the best ever, one of the best tag teams ever, for sure.
Swear.
I mean, honestly, I think as far even with Wayne Ferris, I mean, Honky Tonk Man went above that, but still, you go back to those days with him and Larry Latham and Wayne Ferris with Danny Davis, just tremendous stuff.
Fantastic. Any role he was in, Larry was absolutely fantastic. Larry Booker was his real name. He's a great guy, man. Especially just to be around. You know, just a sweetheart of a guy.
And and we even had some problems with Larry Booker at one point. But it still does not take away the abilities he had in the ring. We turned in Continental. We turned Larry Booker, the Moondog spot. We turned him on Dirty White Boy. He was with the Continental Cat. The whole thing we did with that, and I think the week later he came and asked for more money. I think that was 1 week later. At least he knew where to. I have to give him the respect. At least he knew when to ask for more money. He didn't ask for then. I'll never forget. It was Gaston, Alabama. He asked for it. And I said, "You know what, Larry?" He said, "Yeah, what?" I said, "It's been very nice knowing you."
I was actually on the card that night. I remember that.
It's very nice knowing you.
There was something else that happened that night, which I will tell this story to the supporters here in a little bit. So there's another reason to be a supporter.
Well, since we've transitioned to that, let's Jack, let's go ahead and go through the thing and tell everybody how they can become.
Just want to let everybody know I may or may not be a supporter. You never know.
Insider Nation, you can support us for $2.99 a month. You can find the tab right at the top of the Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Facebook page from 7 p.m. to 7:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Monday, we go live to talk wrestling with supporters only. And then Monday nights from 8:20 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can watch us record videos for YouTube. And then we continue talking wrestling. Tuesday nights, 8:20 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After this live broadcast, you can watch us record a video for YouTube. And then we continue talking wrestling. And you might get a few extra little stories in there off that are not taped. And then you can post to help us decide what we discussed. Post for supporters on Fridays and Saturdays. And personal updates on any upcoming live events, interviews, virtual events, etc.
And by the way, one of those events, we'll just go ahead and tell it right now, WrestleSouth.com. June 12th, Arab, Alabama. Make sure you make plans to be there. As Freddie Miller said, don't miss it. Be there. I don't really never got Freddie's voice down. I don't know. That's maybe I should go get you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get that him saying that somewhere, and I'm gonna put it on here. I'm gonna
and while we're plugging ProWrestlingTees.com, Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, go out there, buy you a shirt. I am sporting actually a Sid Vicious appreciation shirt. I may be the only one that has this one.
Richard Hood said wrestling too, but I think he's way down on my list now.
He's got his whole list. Richard does.
I think Richard does. I think Richard has
got the whole list going tonight. I mean, he's throwing them out there.
Jason Mundy is true. Brad had one of the best drop kicks and arm drags in the wrestling business. He had the best timing in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
He had that timing and wouldn't get lost. He knew where to go anytime something messed up. Today, when you watch a wrestler mess up, they're like, oh, could you get back into position so I can do that spot? I don't know where to go if you don't let me do that spot again. Kevin said the honky tonk man. You know what? I don't disagree with the honky tonk man. By the way, if you're a supporter, later on tonight, I have some photographs from the Terry Gordy Memorial Show that we did. What year was that?
Was it 98?
What? I can't remember. I can't remember what year it was.
I'm trying to remember. Can't remember. I get him and JYD confused on what year they died.
Well, anyway, we will show some pictures, photographs from that. It'll eventually hit YouTube. You'll eventually get to see it on YouTube, but I think it's like 2 weeks later. Old school wrestling with Michael Barsh to the Wrestling Pro. A lot of people wouldn't know who the Wrestling Pro is. Leon Baxter was the Wrestling Pro. Was over big time. Kind of like Mr. Wrestling. I would, wouldn't y'all think kind of the same kind of mask, same kind of gimmick?
Yep.
He was as over as Tim Woods was, and evidently somebody else did that. Mr. Wrestling didn't know that. I never knew that somebody else did that gimmick. While he
correction real quick, Terry died in 2001 of July 2001. So July, August, September, I believe, was when we did the memorial show for him. About 2 months after he passed.
Brad was better than 100. And I will agree with that. Stewart's got his top 10 already.
All right.
And it's Bruno Sammartino, Ricky
Dozan.
Thank you, Jack. Dick the Destroyer Buyer. Yes. Billy Robinson. Big Daddy Shirley Crabtree.
Crabtree.
Adrian Street hates him, by the way. So
yeah, most bridge wrestlers do.
Harley Race, Gorgeous George, Stuart, Abdullah the Butcher. Yeah, I don't know what that Big Daddy did to Adrian Street, but boy, he does not like him.
There's a lot. Seriously, there's a lot of them that don't like him. None of them deny the fact that he was popular there for a good time, but they also blame his push, which he may have been in on the promotion end, for killing off wrestling there.
Greg Azimi says Bobo Brazil. Bobo Brazil, top 100. I agree. Richard Hood, he's just bringing his whole group down. We're gonna let me go through some other people real quick here because we are running out of time. Aaron P. Wilkerson has these people on his list: Jerry Lawler, Dusty Rhodes, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, Dutch Mantell, Joe LeDuc, Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, Frizz Von Erich, Jackie Fargo. Aaron, I agree with every one of them.
I just want to let you know that Lex Luger may or may not be on my list.
I have a feeling he ain't making your list.
I believe he might not. He may or may not be. Hold on a second.
Jack got.
It was the Lex Luger comment. I zoned out over that.
Hold on. I can't find his name on the list. Just keep going. I'll see if I can. Hold on.
But now listen. Maybe just
Stings. I left Sting off of it.
Lex Luger was not a bad wrestler. Okay, I'm not. He wasn't bad.
Sorry,
he wasn't good either. So.
There's crap falling everywhere in here.
Nikolai Volkov
Did you not pay that loan off? Is that why you're still talking good about it?
Yeah, I got to make sure I don't want to pay him back. But here was the thing: Nikolai Volkov always used to say this. He'd say, "You know what? That Lex Luger, he's a great guy. I think he's one of the best guys I ever met. He's a great wrestler. He's one of the superior athletes in the world. But don't get me wrong, he sucks." Nikolai used to say that.
Yes.
Ray said Ricky Steamboat. Well, Ricky Steamboat will be way up there, but he should be in the top 100, no doubt. And I said, Kevin asked about, are you going to put people? No, I think sometimes it goes together. Putting people in seats. I think it's important. I think it is important that you put people in seats, but some people can be put in there because of what they did. Ray also said Tom Pritchard. And I agree, Tom Pritchard. He was another one that knew exactly what he was doing. Aaron said Jack Lord. Aaron P. Wilkerson. Jack Lord.
That's two. Only a million against.
Adrian Harper Jr., Iron Mike Sharpe. Iron Mike Sharpe is another one. Now, he was the cleanest wrestler of all time. He got stuck in a building because he was taking such a long shower. They didn't know he was still there. Daddy used to tell him he would wash his hands, and he'd say, if you keep on washing your hands as much as you're going to do, there's not going to be no skin left. How did he wrestle?
Who did he say? Who did he say it again? What name was that again? Who we're talking about again?
Iron Mike Sharpe.
Iron Mike Sharpe.
Didn't we used to call him Rusty Mike Dull? That's what we called him. I think we even told him that one time. Hey, Rusty Mike Dull, how you doing? And it wasn't. He was good. He just wasn't good for Atlanta. Okay, he just was Georgia Championship Wrestling. He just didn't fit in there. He was great for New York, but not so much Georgia. He kind of had a really dull personality. That's the reason we called him Rusty Mike Dull. Great wrestler, though.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that name, it's on the list.
I bet it's not.
Cut it down. It wasn't Mike Sharpe, Iron Mike Sharpe. It was Rusty Mike Dull, and there he was on the list there somewhere.
Stuart Kemp had to say, he said, I don't know if the doll gets, all got on there. He said, this is a very subjective list, and that's true. That is what it is. As we have a top 10, we could draw, but the fact is the venues were a tough place. Promoters were the determining factor in arenas. Vince took a chance on the big venues, but some arenas didn't have big arenas. And I think the rest of it did come on here. I just, if I just go keep on hitting it. But they were exceptional in small venues anywhere in the world. The criteria were tough too. What was the criteria? Well, the criteria was, could you draw money? I mean, that's important. I think it's important that you draw money. But there's also been, and then people say that Brad didn't draw money, but that is not the truth. He did. So the criteria, that could be subjective as well. Am I correct there?
Yeah, and it all comes down to the personal choice a lot of times. I mean, if you want to say, who would I rather watch wrestle? Who's my number one guy to watch wrestle? I'll tell you Brad Armstrong. And then, and then Terry Gordy's number 2 on there. Are they top 10 guys? No, probably not as far as overall drawing ability or whatever. But for me personally, the ones I enjoy watching, those guys were fantastic.
Bob Welch said this. He asked Tony Marino or Flying Fred Curry, would they make my list? Probably not, because I never watched them ever wrestle. Yeah. And never heard a lot about them. But they would make the list where they wrestled somewhere. Mm-hmm. But they wouldn't make my list just because I never saw them. And really never heard much about them until years later. So they probably wouldn't make my list, and probably somebody that's younger. None of these guys would make the list, So, and Buddy Colt, he should be in there. The guy, the Bama Wrestling says he's pretty sure Brad is committing his biological dad. All right.
Dang it, I put you over too, man.
We're going to have to get off of here because we are running out of time. But
Joel Bateman, Sting, top 20.
Are we all writing Joel's name down?
Steve Richards said, I saw him talk to Eddie Sullivan in a Safeway grocery store in a Seattle suburb. He was nice, but his wife looked very bored. Sullivan stayed and wrestled in the Pacific Northwest for maybe a year. My 100, Playboy Buddy Rose. And yes, and again, because that's the Pacific Northwest, would he make the great adult in Alabama? No, because they wouldn't know who he was. But there, he drew a lot of money. He was a big star. We could talk about this. We could go longer on this, but we are running out of time. If you are a supporter, come over there. We talk about a lot of stuff that never makes air. And then a lot of
Michael, I'm saying Sting who?
Didn't he have a band? Wasn't there? Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of different.
He had a lot of trouble with the police.
There we go.
Okay. This is getting way out of hand here to the end.
One of our insiders said it's getting deep in here today. Yes.
It was falling a minute ago. I tell you.
Yeah. All right, folks. You don't know. As Rodney says, they may or may not be on the list. What is on your list? Top 100. 100 was Brad Armstrong for me. Jack was Brad Armstrong. Rodney was Bob Backlund. And we know what the insiders was. 99. Who is 99? You will have to wait till next Tuesday night as we talk about that wrestler and we talk about a whole lot more. As we just talk professional wrestling and the history of it. And we'll see you next Monday night for the wrestling conversation. And for those supporters, go over there. We are on our way, and we're gonna look at some Terry Gordon Memorial Show photographs. I think this will probably be the first time they've ever been shown on anywhere. So we'll see you later, Rodney.
I'm very surprised that Jose Luis Rivera was not on this list.
He is on my list.
Where is he?
I've got him as a conquistador, but not under.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
I don't.
We'll see you next week.